On March 21st, 1998, Stanley Meyer ordered cranberry juice as a dessert beverage while out to lunch, as he and those accompanying him wrapped up the meal. Yet before they could finish, Meyer began to choke after the first sip, running out of the restaurant. He collapsed in the parking lot, and Meyer's unsettling last words were, "They poisoned me." Who was Stanley Meyer, and what reason would anyone have to poison him? In today's episode, we will look into the life and suspicious death of Stanley Meyer. Born on August 24, 1940, in Columbus, Ohio, Stanley Allen Meyer was one of two twin boys. His twin brother is Stephen. Standing at 6'3" and with a booming voice, Stanley Meyer was a charismatic and persuasive man, equally as comfortably having a conversation with a physicist as with a construction worker. He briefly attended Ohio State University and joined the military. His focus on water as fuel began in 1975, a year after the end of the Arab oil embargo, which had triggered high gas prices, gasoline shortages, and anxiety. The basis for Meyer's research, electrolysis, is taught in middle school science labs. Electricity flows through water, cracking the molecules and filling test tubes with oxygen and hydrogen bubbles. A match is lighted. The volatile gases explode to prove that water has separated into its components. Meyer stated in an interview, "It became imperative that we must try to bring in an alternative fuel source and do it very quickly." Stanley Meyer claimed that he had invented an engine that was able to run on just plain water. Meyer said his invention did so using much less electricity than physicists say is possible. Videos show his contraptions turning water into a frothy mix within seconds. Eyewitness accounts suggest that Meyer had developed an electric cell which split ordinary tap water into hydrogen and oxygen with far less energy than that required by a normal electrolytic cell. Meyer made a demonstration before Professor Michael Lafton, Dean of Engineering at Mary College, London, Admiral Sir Anthony Griffin, a former controller of the British Navy, and Dr. Keith Hindley, a UK research chemist. They all agreed that Meyer's cell, developed at the inventor's home in Grove City, Ohio, produced far more hydrogen-oxygen mixture than could have been expected by simple electrolysis. Stanley Meyer claimed that his invention could do what physicists say is impossible: turn water into hydrogen fuel efficiently enough to drive his dune buggy cross-country on 20 gallons straight from the tap. The tricky part of this invention, however, was that Meyer was never able to patent his invention. This water-powered car would have changed the world. Without that patent, Meyer had a difficult time convincing potential investors to invest in his invention. Critics claim that Meyer's work defies the law of conservation of energy, which states that energy cannot be created or destroyed. The Patent Office classified his invention as a perpetual motion device and declined issuing him a patent. Nevertheless, Meyer attracted believers, investors, and eventually, legal trouble. "I was a sucker for some of this stuff at the time," William E. Brooks said from his home in Anchorage, Alaska. Brooks invested more than $300,000 in Meyer's technology. He hoped to find applications for his aviation business. Today, he and his wife, Lorraine, laugh about the ordeal, made easier because their money was returned in a 1994 settlement in Franklin County Common Pleas Court. Roger L. Hurley, a retired Darke County judge, defended Meyer and still believes in him. "I would not represent someone who I would consider to be a shyster or a bum," said Hurley. "He was a nice guy." On March 20th, 1998, Stanley Meyer was having lunch with Belgian businessmen looking to become involved with Meyer's invention. Meyer ordered cranberry juice as a dessert beverage as he and those accompanying him wrapped up the meal. Yet, before they could finish, Meyer began to choke after the first sip, running out of the restaurant. He collapsed in the parking lot, and Meyer's unsettling last words were, "They poisoned me." Later, as more research was carried out on the scene and Meyer's autopsy was completed, detectives came to the conclusion that Meyer suffered from a brain aneurysm as he had experienced previous episodes of hypertension. The cranberry juice did not show to contain any sort of poisons during the toxicology analysis. The case was closed, and Stanley Meyer's death was simply brushed aside as that of a man in his late 50s who passed of natural causes. So, was Stanley Meyer's death really due to natural causes? Although Meyer's pre-existing health condition and the coroner's report do indicate natural causes, there are many who point to the fact that if his invention was viable, there are a number of entities that would want both Meyer and his invention eliminated. Oil and gas companies would stand to lose billions of dollars if Meyer's invention was successful, and a number of OPEC nations would face economic collapse if the need for oil disappeared. And then, there was Stanley Meyer's ominous last words before he collapsed. "They poisoned me." Stanley's twin brother Stephen Meyer was shocked at his twin brother's collapse and death. He was equally amazed at the Belgians' response the next day. "I told them that Stan had died, and they never said a word," he recalled. "Absolutely nothing. No condolences, no questions. I never ever had a trust of those two men ever again." Stanley Meyer's bizarre death at age 57 ended work that, if proved valid, could have ended reliance on fossil fuels. People who knew him say his work drew worldwide attention. Mysterious visitors from overseas, government spying, and lucrative buyout offers. Unfortunately, continued work on Meyer's invention has died with him. Stanley Meyer was the only person who knew how his innovative water engine actually worked. This concludes today's episode of the Paranormal Report. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. It is due to your continued viewership and support that we are able to bring you interesting and informative videos like this. The team here at the Paranormal Report really appreciates your support.